Danny? Welcome everyone to a special meeting of the Delhi Township Board of Trustees on January the 26th, 2022. To open this special meeting, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will begin with our special presentation of the evening, and this special presentation is all about the Viridian at Delhi Town Square. Our presenters will be Lisa Skovic from Northpoint Advisors, as well as Ron Novick from the Drawing Room. So, I don't know who's going first. Would you like to tell me?
I'm happy to go.
Ron?
Ron Novak, the drawing department, actually.
Okay, Ron, can we put you at the podium with the mic? Part of what we're doing tonight is fulfilling our obligation as the landlord to the Viridian, as well as making decisions on the actual construction and design. So, Ron, you are the designer.
Mrs. Stevie, you reminded me maybe set the table for those at home that are going to see this.
Right.
As part of the lease with Northpoint and PLK, the township has the right and to review the renderings, the exterior of the building, construction schedule. There's a few things in the lease that we get the right to then look at. We still own the property, and so what they're here tonight is to show you the exterior of the building. So it's not something we've seen going forward. So.
All right. Thank you. Ron?
Well, thank you very much for having me here tonight. Again, my name is Ron Novak. I don't think you're turned on. Okay, sorry. How about this? Is that better?
Yeah. Danny, is he?
How about this?
Very nice. That's very nice.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm here to talk about Viridian, exterior development on it and materials. So I open with this photo here, which is really close up on the building, and it's here to illustrate sort of the finish of our apartment buildings and talk about how we're building around the great lawn of this development. I would suggest on this, it gives a full sort of breadth of the materiality of the building, which includes some stone masonry, vinyl siding, aluminum railings. That masonry is used to ground the building and also give it a pedestrian scale. We're using siding to accentuate sort of the bays and the pushes and pulls on the building as far as our entry towers, to break up the facade to make it more of a walking streetscape as the building steps down the site towards the township building. We did draw inspiration from the township building. Its architecture, its scale, its proportion. We also chose to make this elevation very vertical in the use of color, and also, as I suggested before, with this board and batten siding, so we get a robust shadow line on it. I'm going to flip through different drawings and talk about many different points of this, but this version or this view that you see here is supposed to get you down at a pedestrian scale looking towards buildings, and notice how we're using the landscaping to soften the edge of the building and accentuate sort of the hyphens in the building or the cadence of the building with the different colors in the bays as it moves towards the township building along the lawn. So this next image here shows sort of the entire sort of breadth of the largest eastern and western building along the lawn. So you can hopefully recognize the cadence, or as I suggested, the rhythm of creating a townscape or a streetscape. Since there are no vehicles that travel around in this lawn and it's pedestrian, it was very important to create a scale that was commensurate with that and didn't overpower sort of the height of the township building. This is standing at the corner of the length of the building looking towards the Great Lawn. You can recognize sort of the landscaping, how it comes around the buildings and the bathhouse that is in front of us. We did not locate the sort of bosque of trees that is on this side of the bathhouse, just because it would block the view of the buildings, and this was about the buildings.
Ron, can you just talk for a minute about what's sitting in the middle of the lawn so that people that are watching this have an explanation of the box in the middle of the green?
So the box in the middle of the green is the clubhouse, essentially. So it is some baths, and there is a...
No. That's the,
Slow it down.
It's a plot. It's this thing.
so the building that we're showing in the middle of the lawn just comes from the Delhi Township site plan, which from our understanding will be a bar area that will have some stone patio around it, but we haven't shown that. We're just putting it in context to see the height of it versus ours.
Okay.
Sorry, I think this remote might have been messing around with it. So moving back to the presentation, this next image, as I suggested, shows sort of the courtyard as you come around the buildings, or what you experience as you make your way around the length of the buildings. This is down by the stage in front of the township building. So this is the opposite end. It would be important to note, again, that stone is around the entire base of the building. So it's protected from degradation of, dripping water and landscape and that sort of thing. It also helps ground the building and give it presence. And this is a closed-in version of the entry towers from the lawn into the building. Again, you can notice the 3 different types of siding that we're using to create sort of towers and bays on the building, with the darkest material being towards closest to the great lawn, and the lightest siding being along the main bar of the building. Our windows are white. The lights any lights or vents or downspouts that are on the building are compatible with the siding that they're up against, so they match in color, so that they're not another tectonic material or colorized thing on the building. They blend in. This last sort of image here that's rendered sort of shows the rendering of the township building with our rendering of the great lawn and our larger buildings surrounding it. So you can see sort of the inspiration of the roof shapes and sort of the bars and bays and that the rhythm of their facade against ours. We're being compatible with it, but we're not trying to match that at all.
Okay, Ron, when we refer to this as the township building, there's more to that building than just the township. So I don't want a misinterpretation by our residents that this entire thing is the township building. One end is the athletic facility. The center part is admin part for us. There is also a medical facility in there, and the far end is actually 4 classrooms for Oak Hills School District pre-K. So I'm just trying to make sure that no one comes away from this with any misinterpretation of what the design is going to be.
Sure.
I know we spoke when we first looked initially at the layout. The doors in the tower, are those still white? Are we going with the color to match the darker
these doors
vinyl?
here?
Yes.
The entry doors to the buildings are gray now.
Thank you.
They're not white.
Thank you.
And that's my microphone.
You're off.
No, I'm off.
I just turned you off.
Wow.
Okay.
Hey, Ron, can you maybe go back to the one previous and just walk through, since that's kind of a close-up, the different aspects for the sake of posterity?
Sure. So our entry towers, we have the most exposure of stone masonry on that. We have a live sample of it over here on the floor. I believe in your package you might have a rendered version of it also. It probably is the last page of your packet. So it shows a larger version of it because this is such a small sample, so you can see the colorization of it and how it looks as limestone. So that last page of your packet, it's not on the screen.
I can put it on the screen.
It shows the siding types that we have and the colorization of those with this stone, since this is basically our building structure or our building material. So we have our 3 types of siding, going from dark at the top of the page all the way down to the light. The majority of the building has the lightest 2 sidings on it. And again, this darkest one is specifically for our bays and above the stone coping on our entry towers. Can I get back to that elevation if I scroll back? Do you have to open something else? So again, going back to this rendering, this stone table here is to accentuate the entrances, the main entrances to our building breezeways. That stone also runs around the entire base of the building, but it goes up to a height of about 24 inches. It's below the window sills of the first floor. All of the windows are white double-hung windows. The entry door is gray, as I suggested. Our doors that come out onto our balconies are hinged French doors. They're not sliders. Each balcony will have a light fixture on it, and we're choosing to match that light fixture with the color of the siding that it is against, which is the lightest. Our deck structures are going to be coated or surfaced with engineered wood, and we're going to paint the structure that carries that wood the same color as it so that it doesn't look like pressure-treated wood. The railings on here are black painted aluminum, and the drip cap that runs across the top of the building is a similar color as that. The towers do have an extra sort of trim at the top of it to give it more of a capital. And as I suggested before, our downspouts and dryer vent openings, they match the siding that they are in. So if it occurs on the sort of middle gray color, they match that. If it's anything that's atop of the white siding, it matches that. If it's anything on the darkest, it would match that, even though the darkest siding seems to be devoid of any of those things at this time.
You have elevations, so can I turn my mic on?
Yes.
You have elevations that you've included with this to just, for our records to have, but as far as talking through it, the other side of the building is a mirror image of this side, right? Except for maybe the doorway feature?
Yeah, the other side of the building is a mirror image of it, except for the breezeways, we made them open all the way up on both sides. So you can see that represented on, there's a series of line drawings of elevations.
So the first one, I think.
The first one is a smaller building, but you can see it is indicative of what I am referring to.
Yeah.
Actually, if you saw, I think it is the third sheet of those line drawings, which is A210. It shows the other side of these long buildings, and you can see the breezeways that I'm referring to. And I believe that was our point of conversation along the way, just to not capture smells or have that be more open in the first place. So that's why we moved towards that when we changed the parking on the other side.
And thinking about that, the smaller buildings that front face north and south, which side has the opening, the north?
The smallest buildings are represented on...
So that's to the parking lot sides, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So that would be on sheet 8200, and that is the parking lot side, which would essentially be east, depending on which side of the site you're on.
Well, it's always to the parking lot side, though.
Correct, because we have drive side.
Yeah.
So I see your sign on page 8200, and it says it's on the south elevation, so you won't see it from Delhi Pike, you'll see it, it'll be on the back of the development.
That's shown on the wrong elevation.
Okay,
Yeah, that should not be labeled, that should not be labeled the south there.
so it'll be on the north, from like Delhi, you'll be able to,
That is correct. You should see it from your entrance
yeah.
into the development. I'm sorry.
So that's okay. And I'm assuming that's on the building.
That is correct.
Large.
Yeah, I think, it would
I'm
also
sorry,
be-
that's on the building, the sign is on the building?
Yeah.
we were putting a sign on the building there.
Looks like it takes up most of the end cap. And just one, on one building, because you're going to have two.
The left building as you come in.
Or have the sign on it?
That's what they're showing on this, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be on the north side, I believe, that way.
Be on the north side of the left-hand side? Is that what I'm understanding?
North side of the east and west buildings.
It's on each, both of them.
We could put it on both. I would suggest it's on the east building, north face.
Like behind where Arby's now exists?
Correct.
Behind Dunkin' Donuts.
Behind Dunkin'.
Behind
Okay,
Dunkin'?
so it's the west building,
The west,
That's
north.
the west building.
West north, okay.
west building.
Funny if you turn that upside down, how it turns.
I believe that's where, it should be on the face that's closest to our lease office.
Okay.
Behind Dunkin' Donuts.
Behind Dunkin' Donuts.
Behind
you.
Dunkin' Donuts.
What's the other, what's the east building's north face now?
It looks the same as the building without a sign.
So
Well,
why would it be on both sides?
Is that overkill?
I'm just saying we need to make sure we got windows on the one end of the buildings. I just want to make sure we know what's going to be on that other end.
Still just going to be a large square of the darker color on the light gray.
Or are you okay if they signage that side too?
Is that overkill? I think it's overkill, because that's a pretty big font.
This is the west. Okay, well, this,
I'm good with one sign, but
if this is the west building, the west building would be behind Dunkin'. Is this the end then at Dunkin'?
no, this is 8200. That's the west elevation with the big square and the sign on it. Page 8200.
That's correct, 8200, the lowest elevation.
And Ron, are the ends of the smaller buildings
That's the other end.
That's owned by Delphi.
with the
Dunkin'.
windows?
Yes, that's correct. The ends of the smaller buildings look like the second to last sheet, lowest elevation.
Okay, then I think we need to have the longer buildings other than the sign. What are those ends? What are the facades of those ends?
Yeah, they look just like that elevation, but without a sign.
So no windows? Each end is just plain? I just want to make sure we leave with the same understanding.
Yeah, it looks like windows on these sides.
I can't
Do
reach
them,
it.
yeah.
See this?
Yeah.
No. so many different unit types, I have to make sure I'm going to say what is amongst here, so. So if you look at the rendering, it's this one. You can kind of see along this side here. This is the
Okay, and what's on the end, Ron?
south side. So there are bedrooms on that side, which are seen through these windows. There would be an opportunity to put windows around the corner in that siding that wasn't part of the bay, and that's what we're showing in this rendering. They're not shown in plan because we have these windows into those bedrooms and we need a bed wall. So
Looks like there's windows there. in that-
correct. There's windows here. But this is the only place that we see those. So I would say the planning that we have right now, these are the bedroom windows that front the lawn, and there's nothing in the side, just because that's where most of the vehicular traffic happens on the building. We didn't want to embrace that with a car, so I apologize, but I don't think that this rendering here is accurate with the windows being on the sides of the building.
So they're
So, the ends of the big buildings are no windows, and the only one that is different than this plain front is the one with the sign, which is the west building.
That is
North
correct.
side.
North side of the west building has the signage. The south and north sides of both of the lawn buildings look like that elevation without the signage.
And so it's the lighter gray and the darker gray are the materials on those ends?
That is correct. And we didn't put windows in there in the plans because the sidewalk goes up right adjacent to the building. We did purpose that sort of go into somebody's bedroom right there. And as I said, just the vehicles right there. Thanks.
Lisa, do you want to talk about these buildings at all? How, as the operator of them, you know, we've had conversations over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Maybe while we're looking at the actual building, you could walk through why they're this way, why people like that, what you're anticipating, what you're targeting, et cetera, et cetera.
So in total, we'll have 180 apartments, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. On your lawn buildings, we'll house the majority of our units, which is 60 units, all 3-story walk-ups. And the building to the 2 buildings to the west will house 24 units, and then the building all the way to the east, closest to the rec center, will house 12 units. So we've, with the unit count, they're all a little bit different, but these units will range anywhere from, 700 square feet to some of these are 1,300 square feet. We wanted to get some bigger units in here because we're looking at the marketplace, and people want bigger units, and we thought with the demographic that we might be attracted to, the bigger units would be well received. We were toying with the idea of studios, because studios usually happen in an urban footprint, but we didn't really think this was a market for studios, so we wanted to try and get those bigger units in here. Let's see. What else?
What are the features in the apartment?
Oh, well, we will have, so your 1 bedrooms will have 1 bath, your 2 bedrooms will have 2 baths, and your 3 bedrooms will have 2 baths. We're still ironing out the specifications, but you'll have your LVT flooring, you'll have carpet, you'll have You'll probably have quartz countertops, you'll have stainless steel appliances, you'll have shades for your windows. We'll have walk-in closets, bigger than most single-family homes. And then the kitchens will have islands and not peninsulas. Let's see, a lot of recessed lighting. We like to try and keep it simple and a clean look.
You talked to us about soundproofing and then the breezeways and how they're open, then the idea of walking up versus the elevator models.
Well, we found in our market research that, your 4-story, 5-story elevator buildings, the residents are kind of going away from it. 1, groceries, and 2, they want to be able to park right outside of their unit and then go straight into their unit. A lot of times people don't understand when you're in an elevator building, you gotta park your car, you gotta bring your stuff, you gotta walk down the hallway, you gotta hit the button, you gotta wait, then you gotta go up, and then you gotta go down the hallway. So people want access, and they want easy access. So in our development and PLKs, we're leaning more toward your 2-story, 3-story walk-ups, which seem to be very, very popular.
Soundproofing.
Yeah, so the construction of the building will meet the requirements for sound transmission coefficients and that for our floor structures and that. So these units will meet the requirements for soundproofing between different floors and between units.
Well, I think so. When we visited, I think the Jameson, one of the things we talked about was the soundproofing. That's an important aspect of your products. People like, the noise is one of the biggest complaints. Mm-hmm. So that's really, it was, yeah. I mean, so the idea is that these are a desirable apartment. This is what you're seeing in the marketplace. One of the things that I think we appreciated along the way for your involvement, Northpoint's involvement, was you tend to go in an urban setting or somewhere that's a community kind of feel to it, and this was it kept resonating with you as a product to be part of with that general model you have.
Agree. And, what's so attractive about this project is what Delhi's doing. Everybody talks about walkability, and a lot of times that's hard to do if you're not within a city footprint. And you guys have really made it a walkable community. And, I think for the residents who will eventually live here, they can park their car and not move for a while, which I think is great. And I think bringing in this lawn, this public version of, let's just say, a Washington Park, is catalytic. And I think I believe the whole point of this is to spur more development in Delhi. And from some of your agendas that I look like it's working. So we're really excited about this project, and we think it'll be a success, and we'll hope to do more.
Lisa, you've worked with many different groups, and we took the field trip out to see the Jameson and so forth. But I'd like you to share with everyone the units, the developments that you've worked with, and Ron, you too, so that we can have a better understanding of the products that you've done before ours, and really your history of developing these as you come to Delhi.
Sure. I'll just make a clarification. So the Jameson is a project and a development developed by PLK Communities. Northpoint did not have anything to do with it. Northpoint is partners with PLK on this particular development. So I will talk on Northpoint Developments.
Okay.
We have been in the urban core for practically the last 15 years, which is downtown Cincinnati. We have built and developed with North American Properties over 400 units. Those are predominantly high-end units, so they're towers, they're above 10 stories. We have partnered with Rookwood Properties and North American for the apartments that were built on top of the downtown Kroger. That was a little less than 2 years ago now that was done. We have done a lot of projects with 3CDC and OTR. We were one of the original developers that they partnered with. A lot of it was a for sale product, but we did a lot of commercial spaces and office space as well. Since then, we have moved out and we are in the burbs, if you want to call it, and we have done a project which I believe some of you have visited, which is Juvenile Square in Covington. That's a 4-story elevator building, 110 units. But what was great about that project was we were the first ones in. Covington had not seen market rate new construction in 25 years. So it's not very different than this. A lot of times you always want to be the first one in, but then many people follow, and that's the whole point of it. Northpoint is partnering with a bunch of other developers in Springdale, Ohio. We are building 228 units. That's a little different than what we've done before. They are new construction rental townhomes with a renovation of 2 office buildings. So we've done a little bit of everything.
And I think that's what I wanted our residents to understand, that, we've looked into you and you've looked into Delhi, so that we have a sense of comfort as to who's developing these programs for us. And Ron?
Yes, what I can say is, drawing department, we are a design-first firm. We do commercial and residential work. That being said, we find ourselves doing a lot of different projects. Our portfolio is very diverse.
Okay.
But we work with a lot of developers on residential work at a commercial scale because of our sensibility to proportion and materiality and a human scale that just came from our 15 years of doing residential, mostly on a custom level. But then we've partnered with 3CDC, Northpoint, PLK to develop both in an urban situation and a suburban situation. I think that this project is exciting because it embraces a new urbanism and a walkability to it that takes the car and turns the back on that and creates a neighborhood. So that's unseen out here. This is a whole different way of looking at this. So that's why it was exciting to us, because it was about home and not so much about the checklist of qualifications, like we need this many units and this size. It was much more than that. So we do a lot of hospitality type work as far as bars, restaurants, event spaces. And so much of that is about home also, and entertainment and memory and celebration of an event. So it all leads into being here today and creating these apartments with PLK and Northpoint.
Trustee Davis, you have questions?
No, I don't have questions. The only comment I had, and it's already been discussed when we were comparing the walk-up without the elevator. I'm just thinking in my mind, if I'm carrying bags of groceries, I really like that elevator. But I also like the idea of being able to walk right up, be there a couple floors right up, and I'm there. And at the same time, the privacy of which this offers, for people going in the store to be for the residents. So it's not like just going to be some, free-flowing, come on in, you cross through here and on your way to Dunkin'. That's not going to happen. So I appreciate that. Questions overall, or questions, or closing statements, or final thoughts?
I think we've all gotten a numerous mix and variety of questions from residents about the development. Are there any that you think that Lisa or Ron can answer for us now?
No, I think, as you were talking, I'm sitting there in the back of my mind, I'm hearing, and social media, go. So many thoughts have been put out there about what this is going to look like. I hope that this gets just as much tread, if you would, out there in the community, because this is beautiful. This is, dare I say, it's classy, it's professional, it's cool, and Delhi, you absolutely deserve this. When you drive around those places like the apartments over the Kroger's down there, which is great, or out in Oakley and these places, it's like, why can't we do that here? We can, and we are. And as you can see, it's going to look great. Even the township buildings are going to be right there. So a lot of time and work and going through the details. And I'm glad that you were able to talk about different projects you've been involved with. You know what you see. And I especially love the fact that you notice as much as we do, this is all about spurring more development in this place. And people talk retail and restaurants and everything. Yeah, it's creating volume. You create the volume, and then you have that. And we already know from the different magazines and the stories that have been done on Delhi Township just being 13 minutes from downtown. There's great things going on. This is going to be such a great addition. There's going to be growing pains like anything else, every other project, you go through it. But this is a great start, and I think it's just well-deserved for the community.
Trustee Sturts?
Sorry, pretty much the same thing. I agree with Trustee Davis that I wasn't a fan of walk-ups, but I'm also older. But once we saw it, once we experienced it, understood it, I do like that convenience of walking into your front door. And that's exactly what you're doing, is walking into your front door. So, no, I love it. I love the designs. We've done a great job of not matching, but complementing our building, which that was the egg that came first. And so this is kind of chicken or egg, but yeah, you've worked well with it, and I'm very excited and very proud to be able to present this to Delhi.
Fiscal Officer Luby, you've been in on this from the beginning with the dollars. Did you have anything you'd like to comment to?
What excites me the most about this project is, I think investors will look at this and look at the opportunity on Delhi Pike and the surrounding area. So the investment that I think we'll see in the coming years is very exciting to me.
Good. The one thing that came to my mind when Trustee Davis was talking, the line for the Bengals right now is, why not us? Well, Delhi, why not us? And I just think, we've gotten some simple questions like, is there a grill area? Is there a pet area? Are you going to have plants? But I think those are things that we can work through and add as we develop this. And I know that as a board, we need to approve first the elevation. Is that correct?
By the lease, there's a requirement to approve you get the right to approve the elevations of the buildings, which is what we're looking at, construction schedule, engineering documents, or utilities. The only two that I think really that are applicable are the schedule, which you probably want to just touch on. And I would say, for the sake of what people are looking at, we're going to own the ground that these apartments sit on. So we're leasing it to them. We're actually putting in this middle section, which we're calling the lawn, and we are doing the landscaping, and then they, as a tenant, will pay a common area maintenance throughout the course of the years based on their percent of the area. So,
And if I understand this correctly, Brian, our law director, we're allowed to accept this with conditional approval. If we can always come back and have a discussion about any change or anything that's
So the
okay.
parties can always agree to do your part of it. Well, I should be seen and not heard. Obviously, you have two parties to the lease. You can always come back and amend it or talk about it later. But you need, as part of the lease, you need to do this so they can keep going.
So they can move. Okay.
And you want it to keep going too, obviously.
Absolutely. Okay. All right then. Jack, I think we're ready to have a motion then about the elevation. I mean, does anyone have a question about the elevation? Because right now I was just looking to make sure it was not stair-stepped elevation, and it's a common flow of elevation down to the administration and activity. I call them the activity buildings, the recreation center and the cultural centers. Is that a quick and easy description of the elevations?
Certainly. I mean, the building flows down towards that. It does step just because of the natural repose of the site. We've used flat roofs to hide the parapets and the steps of the roof, so the building looks like there's a smooth sort of
Smooth
transition
slope.
down there.
That's what I picked up from these renderings. Mike, did you have any questions on that? Rose? Anybody? Jack?
So I would offer that your motion would be, if you're okay with the look of them, that you make a motion to approve the renderings and elevations contingent on what was discussed here today, and that they come back to, well, not here, but they come back and present me with the elevations for each side of the building, and then I can confirm they're hitting what we talked about.
All right, and then to the same motion, can we add, or is it understood, the acceptance of any conditional approval?
Well, I think
It's understood.
part of it, yes.
Okay, all
The other
right.
thing too is, I know Lisa hasn't talked about it yet, but once you talk about construction schedule, I'd also want a motion to approve that too.
All right. I haven't seen a construction schedule.
They just gave us
Yes, I'm stealing her thunder.
Under,
very bottom.
But she's going to talk about that now, so.
all right, two separate motions
I think
can be one. Okay, good.
unless
Lisa.
you wanted a different one.
So here's a proposed construction schedule. So building one, the East Lawn building, which will have 60 units. If we get our pad delivered on May 1st of this year, we are 14th month build from there, which means we open for business and people start living there July 1st of 2023. Building 2, the East Lawn Building, housing 60 units. If we get that pad delivered on July 1st of this year, that is also a 14th month build, moving people in September 1st of 2023. Building 3, which is a 24-unit building, if we get the pad delivered to us on September 1st of this year, a year build, so we open for business September 1st, 2023, which is the exact time that East Lawn 60-unit building would get delivered. Okay. Building 4 is a 24-unit building, receiving the pad on October 1st of this year and delivering it October 1st of 2023. Building 5, which is a 12-unit building, receiving that on November 1st of this year, 11-month build, coming online the same one as Building 4, which would be October 1st of 2023.
Okay, and you will keep us in tune to a timeline if there's a problem with supply chain and materials as we go along?
Absolutely.
I'd say that's probably going to be expected from what we understand from everything else. I just want to make sure that we understand that.
Appreciate that, yes.
Okay. Mr. Cameron, did you have any questions about the timeline?
No, and we've sat down and gone over construction schedules, and so we have the obligation to give them a pad before they can start.
Right.
So we're very tied to their construction schedule.
We're on the bubble.
And I would note that it could be that you start in a different sequence, but it would be the same basic flow of happening, right?
The buildings?
Well, and then we talked about you might have to start on this building or re-stagger how you're starting, but generally the construction schedule looks like this.
Generally, yes. Yes. I think the how we have it sequenced is how we would like it, but it also speaks to the site work and some utilities that have to be moved and or deliveries that need to be in. So we working with Turner that this is the best sequencing, but if it has to change, then we'll work with Turner to change it.
Mr. Luby, I have a question. As we rent these and they're finished and we have people living in them and we're receiving revenue then through these apartments, are we going to percentage-wise, or how is that going to work as far as money back to the township?
As far as our lease payment,
It's set.
It's set?
Was it
Okay.
April of 24 is the first
All right,
one?
that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, it's set.
Okay. Sorry, old fiscal officer hands.
Fair.
So, to the point of the schedule, I just want to make sure that you know, it could be that it's building 2 versus building 1. It might, depending on some of this work on the site, they might go to a different building first, but it'll still be the basic schedule you see here.
So, just to your point about modifications, I think what Lisa's articulating, you're picking up on too, is because of supply chain, just because, I mean, if everything were in a perfect world, which we're not right now, but if we were in a perfect world, there would be some give and take on what's going on. In fact, we're in a partnership, we're in a relationship with these folks, so we'll talk to them about what's going on. But this satisfies, at least everybody knows, there's, using an analogy, we had a dartboard. I mean, dartboard may move, but you've got a dartboard out to throw at, and that's what we're like looking to do. So, yes, if there are issues, as Lisa indicated, we'll point them out and come back and talk to the proposed community. These are the approvals of the lease that starts everything.
Okay. Before we go to motion, Trustee Davis, do you have any other questions?
No, I do not.
Trustee Sturts? No. All right, then. Mr. Luby, do you have a motion that we can use?
it looks like the recommendation on the agenda covers everything, or do we need
Maybe, let me,
to modify it?
scribble something
All
down.
right.
I'm going to read you what I have instead of trying to follow my scribbles.
You want to make the motion?
Well, I can read it for you. You can say okay if you want.
Yeah, I think you can do that, that's fine.
All right, so I have approved the Viridian at Delhi Town Square building elevations and construction schedule with any noted and requested modifications during the meeting and presentation as agreed to by the tenant, Viridian at Delhi Town Square. Final rendering and set of documents to be reviewed and confirmed by administrator and law director.
I would just add as set forth in the schedule and the drawings that were submitted during the hearing.
Are those entered as exhibits?
Yeah, we'll put that as part of the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. That motion.
That motion.
Yeah, I need somebody to make that motion.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ron. Thank you for the
Thank you
presentation.
for everybody.
I think we'll be seeing a lot more of each other.